Her fingers were laced through as like they'd done it 100 times before. She brushed against my shoulder as they passed. I didn't flinch. I didn't move. I just sat there, knees locked, coffee trembling in my hand, watching the two of them stroll toward gate 32 like I didn't exist, like I hadn't paid off her student loans, like I wasn't the one who stayed up with her father when he was dying, like I was a stranger in an airport cafe, sipping lukewarm bitterness while my wife paraded her affair right in front of me. She didn't see me. She didn't look up. And I saw everything. They stopped just a few feet away. She tilted her head, that playful way she used to do with me when we still liked each other, and whispered something that made him laugh. He leaned down, pressed his mouth to her neck. She squealed quietly. Then, without a trace of guilt, she reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and took a photo of the two of them. A couple selfie. A souvenir. They were boarding a plane to Cancun. I know because I watched her open the boarding pass on her phone. I saw my last name still listed in her Apple ID. The irony made me nauseous. She told me she was flying to visit her sick aunt in Pittsburgh. There's no aunt. There's never been an aunt. I wasn't supposed to be at the airport. But fate has a way of dragging pathetic men like me into the exact place they least want to be. Malcolm forgot his laptop in my trunk. He called me in a panic. Said he needed it immediately, that his life depended on the damn presentation he'd built for a construction firm in Ohio. I told him I'd swing by the terminal. I was wearing sandals. No jacket. I hadn't even brushed my hair. I thought I'd be in and out in 10 minutes. Instead, I watched the woman I thought I was growing old with wrap her arms around another man while calling herself babe. My hands were still sticky from the cinnamon roll I'd eaten on the way in. I wiped them on my jeans without thinking. I couldn't look away. Not even when he kissed her. Not even when she kissed him harder. She didn't see me. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the tattoo. A small one. Barely visible under her sleeve. The one we got together on our second anniversary. Mine says, always. Hers said, forever. Except she'd had hers altered. A new line of ink. Now it read, for Eli. I don't know who Eli is. But I intend to find out. What she doesn't know is that I followed them after their plane took off. And what I uncovered in the days after. Let's just say the airport was just the prologue. The plane was gone. Her flight took off exactly on time. Cancun. Flight 1896. Window seat. I watched the little dot on the departure board blink from boarding to in air, while her laugh still echoed in my ears. It was like someone pressed pause on my life and left everything else running. I sat in the parking lot of the terminal for 43 minutes. I didn't cry. Not then. I just sat there, still holding that empty paper coffee cup like it was some sacred object, replaying the way she leaned her head on his shoulder, how she smiled with her whole face, smiled like she hadn't done with me in years. Like the version of her that used to hold my hand while we grocery shopped or send me dorky selfies at work had packed up and relocated to someone else's arms. I should have gone home. I should have thrown my phone in the glove box and driven back to our apartment where the sheets still smelled like her shampoo. But instead, I did something I never thought I'd do. I opened her old laptop. It was still linked to our home Wi-Fi, still synced with her cloud. And I knew, God, I knew I was crossing some line. But when your wife of 11 years walks past you like a stranger and kisses a man named Eli in front of gate 32, your concept of boundaries shifts real fast. The first thing I checked was her shared photo album. A new one had been created, titled Blue Water Dreams. I opened it. The first image was of her feet in the sand. Red toenails. A new anklet I'd never seen before. The next was of her in a yellow bikini I didn't buy, sipping something blue from a coconut, sunglasses tilted just enough to catch her smile. There were 10 photos total. All taken a month ago. All featuring Eli. In the last photo, they were on a boat, tangled together like teenagers, holding up a sign that said, next time, no hiding. My heart made a sound. I didn't even know it could make that kind of sound. I sank back into the driver's seat and just let the silence choke me. Then I noticed something else. She'd left her calendar open. There were multiple entries marked training on weekends I'd been homesick. 3 marked Pittsburgh. One that read, dentist, 2 p.m., leave phone in car. Leave phone in car. It was planned. Every lie was crafted. I was never part of the story, I was the alibi. The guy who stayed back and paid the bills while she reinvented herself in hotel rooms under the name Joe. Joe. That's what he called her in a saved video. I watched it through trembling fingers. She was laughing, twirling on a beach at night, and he said, come here, Joe, like he'd known her forever. I sat there, alone in that car, trying to figure out what was worse, that she betrayed me, or that she had become someone else entirely in the process. And then, out of nothing, my phone lit up. Joellen, landed safely. It's doing better. Love you. Love you. The audacity. She was thousands of feet in the air, curled up beside a man with designer stubble and a shared travel album, and still texting me like I was some houseplant that needed watering once a week. I stared at the message until my battery died. And when I drove home in silence, I didn't feel rage. I didn't scream or punch the steering wheel like in movies. I felt something worse. I felt replaced. I was going to let it go. I swear. I was going to pretend I never saw them. But something in that photo album made me stop. There was a second man in the background of the boat picture. Blurry. Holding something shiny. Like a phone. I zoomed in. Squinted. He wasn't smiling. He was filming them. And the logo on his polo? It belonged to my company. And that's when everything changed. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in our bed, staring at the ceiling while the fan ticked like a slow countdown to something I didn't understand yet. The room still smelled like her, like lavender and hotel samples she'd steal from fancy spas. I didn't change the sheets. I didn't touch her pillow. I just laid there, arms crossed tightly against my chest like I was holding myself together with force. The message she sent me, love you, it's doing better, was still burned into my brain like an insult dressed up as affection. But it was that blurred man in the background of the boat picture that haunted me more. His face wasn't clear, but the shirt was unmistakable. Dark green polo, white embroidered logo. It belonged to one place only, my office. You see, I work for a small real estate firm, Kinswell Property Services. We're not some flashy skyscraper builders, just a team of middle-aged guys managing land titles, old condos, and zoning paperwork. Boring stuff. But that shirt, that logo. I knew it like I knew my own hands. And I knew the man, too. His name was Denton. He worked 3 cubicles over from me. 44. Divorced twice. Talks too loud about grilling. That guy. Now, why was he in the background of my wife's romantic boat trip in Mexico? I couldn't ignore it. The next morning, after drinking the same cold coffee 3 times because I kept forgetting I'd already poured it, I drove into work. I shouldn't have. I looked like hell. I hadn't showered. My shirt was inside out for half the drive. But I had to know. I walked past his desk. He wasn't there. His monitor was off. But there, hanging from the back of his chair, was the shirt. That shirt. My throat tightened. At 11:37 a.m., he came in, whistling. I watched him from the break room window. He sipped from a bright orange mug that said Trophy Husband, which was ironic, considering everything. He logged into his computer, started typing like nothing was off. But I saw the edge in his eyes when I passed him in the hallway an hour later. He avoided my gaze. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed more. At home, I dug deeper into Joellen's synced accounts. She hadn't deleted anything, probably assuming I'd never check. But there it was, an Uber receipt from 3 weeks ago. Drop-off location, Denton's address. Pickup, 4 hours later. And then I made a mistake. I opened the Notes app. There were entries labeled J/E trip ideas, birthday surprises, and one that made me physically nauseous. If he finds out, options? Inside were bulleted lines. She had actually made a list. A goddamn list. Deny everything. Say it started after the marriage was already broken. Use therapy angle. Say I felt emotionally unsafe. If needed, cry. She planned for the fallout like it was a work presentation. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't scream. If I screamed, I was afraid I'd never stop. I took screenshots of everything. My hands were shaking, but I made sure every file was timestamped. I emailed them to myself, then to a dummy account I'd made in college. Then I saved them on a USB stick I taped to the underside of my sock drawer. It felt dramatic, paranoid, but somehow necessary. That night, she called. From Pittsburgh. I let it go to voicemail. Hey babe, she said in her practiced voice. Just checking in. And Sharon's doing better today. We had soup and played cards. I think I might stay one more night. She's really struggling emotionally. Hope that's okay. Love you. Soup and cards. While I watched her take tequila shots on a boat. The anger hadn't come yet. Just a dull, steady ache, like a bruise under every rib. But what she didn't know, what neither of them knew, is that while they were off playing lovers on the beach, I'd been speaking to someone else. A name that showed up in her call history once. A woman named Lainey. Someone who had a very particular reason to answer my message. And when she replied, everything changed. Lainey wasn't a name I recognized at first. It was buried halfway down Joellen's recent call list, wedged between her hair salon and someone just listed as Jay. Only one call 8 minutes long, and it had happened 2 days before the Cancun trip. The thing is, Joellen never makes phone calls. She texts, emails, leaves sticky notes on the fridge that say things like, out of oat milk, again face with rolling eyes. So this one stuck out. I wasn't expecting her to respond, not really. I messaged her through Facebook using the account I hadn't touched in 4 years, my profile still frozen in time with a photo of me wearing cargo shorts and hugging a very fat golden retriever who's now buried behind my mom's garage. I didn't know what to say. I think I wrote something like, "Hi, I know this is strange, but I believe you may have spoken to my wife recently. I don't mean any harm. I'm just trying to understand what's going on." I didn't expect anything back. Most people would have blocked me. But 5 minutes later, she responded with, "Oh my God, you're her husband?" I stared at the screen. I was parked in the Wendy's drive-thru at the time, engine idling, heart trying to punch through my ribcage. The phone buzzed again. "I've been waiting for this. Can you talk now?" She didn't wait for me to answer. She sent her number. The call only lasted 12 minutes. But those 12 minutes gutted everything I still believed about Joellen. Lainey was Eli's ex, or current girlfriend. It was hard to tell. Things were messy. They had been on and off for over a year. Every time she thought it was over, he pulled her back in. But the whole time, he was apparently seeing someone else on the side. And that someone, Lainey recently discovered, was my wife. I asked how she found out. She told me that a few nights ago, while Eli was asleep, she scrolled through his photos and recognized Joellen from a mutual friend's wedding. Same hair, same laugh, same stupid freckle under her left eye. But that's not all. Lainey told me that Joellen had promised Eli she was already separated, that I was controlling, that I threatened to hurt myself if she left. I nearly choked when I heard that. Joellen had twisted me into a monster in order to play the victim. She painted herself as some courageous survivor escaping a tragic marriage. Said she was finally learning to breathe again. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch the steering wheel until the airbag knocked me out of my own misery. But I didn't. I thanked Lainey. I told her I was sorry. She just sighed and said, "You're not the one who needs to apologize." Before we hung up, she said one last thing that left me frozen. "By the way, Eli proposed to her 3 weeks ago, in Tulum. I found the video." She said yes. I pulled the car over and threw up in a grocery store parking lot. She said yes. Joellen, my wife. The woman who stood in front of a judge and took my last name. The woman who once cried because I forgot our 7-month anniversary. She was engaged to someone else, and I hadn't even signed divorce papers. And here's the kicker. That same morning, before her flight, she'd sent me a playlist. A goddamn playlist. Titled, Just For Us Yellowheart. Full of sappy acoustic songs we used to play on road trips. I thought maybe it was a peace offering. A subtle apology for being distant. I didn't realize she was using it to throw me off. To distract me while she disappeared into a new life with another man's ring on her finger. When I got home that night, I opened our closet. Half of her clothes were missing. Not packed. Gone. So I started digging. And I found the binder. A white 3-ring binder she kept tucked away in the back of her office drawer, behind receipts and stationery. Inside were printouts, statements, drafts of legal letters, bank routing numbers. One tab was labeled, Separation Strategy. Another tab, Asset Shielding. And then I realized something far more terrifying than infidelity. This wasn't an affair. This was an escape plan. A methodically written, well-prepared, legally calculated exit. And I was the only idiot still playing house while she was rewriting the ending without me. She didn't just cheat on me. She erased me. I didn't eat for almost 2 days. It wasn't intentional. Food just felt irrelevant. I'd open the fridge, stare at a jar of pickles or a half-used bag of shredded cheese, and wonder what it was even for anymore. Our kitchen had always been her space. She loved it, owned it, danced barefoot in it while flipping pancakes on Sunday mornings like we were some soft-focus commercial for middle-class happiness. But now it felt like a crime scene. Everything I touched felt covered in her fingerprints, and none of it meant anything anymore. I kept replaying Lainey's voice in my head. She said yes. That one sentence cracked everything. Because it didn't just confirm the betrayal, it confirmed the replacement. You can survive being cheated on. You can even survive being lied to. But being replaced? being edited out of your own life like a forgotten draft. That hits different. And I still hadn't said a word to her. She sent 2 more texts. One with a photo of a plastic bowl of soup and her aunt's blurry face in the background. I reverse image searched the picture. It was from a Yelp review posted in 2020. The second text said, "Might extend my trip. Love you lots." At this point, she was practically daring me to react. But I stayed quiet. I was watching, listening, piecing things together. Then came the knock on the door. It was just after 10 p.m., and I was sitting on the edge of our bed, wearing the same sweatpants I'd been in for 3 days. I thought maybe it was a neighbor complaining about the porch light being left on or a package delivery left too late. But when I opened the door, I saw someone I hadn't seen in almost a decade. Her name was Ray, Joellen's half-sister. I didn't even recognize her at first. Her hair was shorter, jet black now, and she looked older, sharper. Not cold, just carved by time. She used to live 2 states away. Joellen hadn't spoken to her in years, always saying things like, "She's drama," or "She only calls when she needs money." So why was Ray now standing on our porch, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes scanning me like I owed her an explanation? "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. She walked in like she knew the house, but hadn't seen it in this state. She looked around, pausing at the wilted plant near the stairs, the open binder still sitting on the kitchen counter, and the silence that made the walls feel hollow. "She really did it," Ray said after a moment. "Didn't think she'd actually go through with it." I asked what she meant, and Ray laughed, sharp and bitter. "She's been planning this for years," she said. "Not just the affair. The whole thing. The exit. The financial split. She told me 5 years ago she'd never leave unless she had a perfect exit and a better man." Her words, not mine. My chest went cold. "You knew?" She shook her head. "Not all of it. She used to brag. Said she was too smart to end up like Mom. Stranded, broke, loyal. She wanted a clean break with all the power. I thought it was just her being dramatic. Until Lainey contacted me. Said she found my number on Eli's phone. That hit me sideways. Lainey had gone through Eli's phone and found Ray's contact. Ray, who Joellen hadn't spoken to in years. Ray, who Joellen had warned me never to trust. "She's not just running from you," Ray added. "She's running with someone else's money." I blinked. "Whose?" Ray reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. She dropped it on the kitchen table like it was evidence in a courtroom. "Yours," she said. "And your company's. And someone else's. She's been moving money between fake LLCs. Eli's part of it, but I don't think he realizes just how deep she's dug." I stood there, mouth dry, as the words blurred together. "She's laundering money?" I asked. Ray shrugged. "Maybe not intentionally, but it's close enough. She's got 3 accounts under fake business names tied to your billing address, all opened in the past 18 months. One of them received a wire transfer from your firm's expense account." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. It had never occurred to me that this went beyond infidelity, that she wasn't just leaving me for someone else, but actively draining me while doing it. "She said she loved me," I muttered. "She sent me a playlist." Ray snorted. "Joellen sends playlists to people like normal people send receipts. You're not special. Neither is Eli. She's just really good at pretending." And then she added the part I'll never forget. "She used to tell me the worst thing you could do to a man was make him believe he was winning, and then vanish." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the table, staring at that flash drive, while Ray snored softly on the couch in the living room. I opened and closed the browser on my laptop 50 times. I wanted to scream into the night or smash something, but I didn't. I just sat there like I'd been hit by a train and was still trying to figure out if I had both legs. Because it wasn't about love anymore. This was a war, and she didn't even know I'd joined the fight. I don't remember the exact moment I decided I was done playing the fool. Maybe it was when Ray whispered from the couch at 3 a.m., half asleep, "She doesn't think you'll fight back." Or maybe it was when I opened one of the spreadsheets on that flash drive and saw a series of wire transfers labeled consulting services that traced directly back to my own firm's discretionary fund. A fund that only 3 people had access to: myself, our finance director, and our company's tech lead. I hadn't touched that account in over a year. The finance director? He was retiring, which left just one person. The tech lead. Denton. The man in the background of the Cancun photo. The man who, I now realized, hadn't just been screwing my wife, he was helping her erase me. I didn't call Joellen. I didn't text her. Let her keep pretending she was spoon-feeding soup to a fictional aunt while wearing a new diamond from Eli. Let her keep sending me fake updates and innocent emojis. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me unravel. Instead, I requested an internal audit at work. I told my boss I suspected a leak in our expense reporting chain. He raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. We've worked together for 11 years, and I've never once cried wolf. I told him to start with discretionary and travel reimbursements tied to account code 224A. It was just vague enough to make sense, just specific enough to get traction. Then I called a lawyer. Not one of those flashy billboard attorneys. I found a woman named Esther who operated out of a small office above a dentist clinic, but came with razor-sharp reviews and a look in her eye that said she hadn't lost a case she cared about in 20 years. She wore glasses with cracked frames and took exactly 6 minutes to understand what was happening. Your wife didn't just plan to leave, Esther said. She planned to liquidate you. I handed her the binder. The photos. The USB drive Ray gave me. By the time I walked out of her office, she'd already started filing the paperwork to freeze all joint assets. And that's when Joellen finally called. I watched the phone buzz in my hand. She was probably expecting me to ask how her aunt was doing, to thank her for the playlist, to cry. Instead, I answered with the flattest voice I could manage. You might want to talk to Eli, I said. Tell him to check his email. Silence. Then she said, What did you do? I didn't reply. I just emailed Eli a PDF packet titled, From the Husband She Forgot About. It included a timeline, proof of dual relationships, screenshots of her messages to Ray, financial statements, and a side-by-side breakdown of how she was siphoning money through companies listed in both his and my names. I made sure it was detailed but not aggressive. Just facts. Clean. Surgical. Unavoidable. She hung up. 20 minutes later, Ray texted me from the living room couch. Eli just posted on his private Instagram story. Lies cost more than diamonds. Think he found the ring receipt. I should have felt vindicated. I should have laughed. Instead, I sat down in our backyard, staring at the broken fence Joellen kept asking me to fix for years. I thought about all the little things, how she used to count ceiling tiles when she was nervous, how she hated the way parsley smelled, how she once said if she ever disappeared, she wanted it to be like vapor, without drama. But she hadn't disappeared like vapor. She detonated, and took my life with her. Later that night, while Ray was packing up to leave, she paused by the front door. She's not going to stop, she said. People like her when cornered. They double down. Expect charm, denial, maybe even tears. I know, I said. And you? She asked. You ready for that? I thought about it. The man I was 2 weeks ago, the one who still believed in playlists, who waited by the window when Joellen was late from yoga, who blamed himself for her distance, that man was gone. I'm not ready, I said. But I'm not scared either. Ray smiled. That's a start. Before she left, she handed me a crumpled envelope. Found this in Eli's glove box, she said. Might want to read it when you've got the stomach. She left before I could ask what it was. Inside the envelope was a printed confirmation from a luxury travel agency. Destination, Florence, Italy. 2 travelers. Booked 3 months ago. Under the names Joellen Abernathy and Eli Greer. The travel dates? Next month. Meaning her escape wasn't over. It was just beginning. She came home 3 days later, pulling into the driveway like nothing had happened. I watched from the upstairs window, my hands clenched into the windowsill so tightly that they would creak beneath my grip. Her car was spotless, freshly washed. She got out slowly, calmly, like someone returning from a peaceful retreat. She wore sunglasses, even though it was late evening, and a scarf I'd never seen before. Probably Eli's. I didn't rush down. I wanted her to feel the weight of the silence inside the house. Let her walk through the front door and feel that something was off. The lights were low. No music playing. No dinner smells wafting from the kitchen. Just cold stillness. She walked in with her usual, hey babe, like we were still in the middle of our life together. I stayed at the top of the stairs, arms crossed, watching as she set down her bag and kicked off her shoes like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of my existence. When she looked up and saw me, her whole body paused. A flicker of hesitation. Barely visible. But I caught it. You're home early, she said, and smiled, like that was enough. I know everything, I replied. Quiet. Controlled. She blinked. The smile faltered. What do you mean? I stepped down one stair. Then another. I mean Cancun. I mean Eli. I mean the ring. I mean the fake businesses. I mean the real money. I mean the fact that you told him we were already separated. The pause that followed was long, a silence that hurt. And then she gave me exactly what Ray predicted, the shift. Her voice softened. She moved toward me just slightly, hands open like a peace offering. It's not what you think. I laughed. It was ugly and short and made my throat burn. Don't insult me. I was going to tell you, she said. You've been so fragile lately, and I didn't know how to bring it up. I thought I'd have more time. You planned a European honeymoon with another man and opened fake LLCs in my name. That's not a conversation you bring up. That's fraud. She tilted her head, her voice carefully calm. Okay, can we sit down? Please. No. I don't want to fight, she said, stepping closer. And I don't want to be lied to anymore, I snapped. But here we are. She went quiet then. Her eyes shifted slightly, calculating. I could see the mask drop, the performance, the rehearsed grief, all of it faltering. Then came the pivot I never saw coming. You're the one who left first, she said. Emotionally. You stopped being present. You started pulling away from me years ago. You made this house a cold place. I stared at her. This woman who once cried over dead goldfish, who used to beg me to talk about my feelings. And now she was blaming me for her affair, for her scheme, for everything she built behind my back. I gave you everything I had, I said. I bent myself into pieces to keep you happy. I stopped going out. I gave up promotions to stay close. I loaned money to your brother. I took care of your father when you couldn't. And you took me for granted, lied to my face, and tried to disappear with a man who doesn't even know your middle name. Her jaw clenched. You're being dramatic. No, I'm finally being honest. I pulled a folder off the side table, set it down between us. She didn't reach for it, but she recognized the printout, the financial documents, the hotel receipts, the text logs, the calendar exports, the photo still of her and Eli standing on the boat, his hand on her stomach. You're pregnant, I said. Aren't you? She flinched. I didn't need her to confirm it. I already knew. You were going to vanish and raise his kid on my savings, I said, my voice hollow. You were going to take half of everything and build a life that I was never meant to see. Now the mask was off entirely. Joellen's eyes narrowed. Her shoulders squared. You want revenge, she said coldly. Fine. Take the house. Take the money. You'll still be the lonely one. No, I said. You don't get it. I don't want revenge. I want clarity. I want the truth to exist. And I want your fairy tale to burn itself down without me having to touch the match. I turned to leave the room. You won't get away with this, she called out behind me. I'll make sure they see what you've done. I stopped, turned just enough to look back at her. I didn't do anything, I said. You made sure of that. Then I walked out of the house we built together. Not because I was weak, but because the foundation had already been hollow for years. And somewhere deep inside me, something had finally snapped back into place. I didn't go back for my things right away. I stayed with my cousin for a while, sleeping on an inflatable mattress in his spare room, listening to the hum of his air purifier and the distant sound of his toddler waking up in the middle of the night. It was a weird sort of peace, waking up in a house that wasn't haunted by betrayal. Just the sound of life happening around me, honestly, clumsily, without hidden files or secret getaways. It grounded me. Joellen tried to contact me, of course. A lot. Texts, missed calls, emails with subject lines like, let's talk like adults, or, I still want us to be civil. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to discuss. The more she reached out, the more I understood that this wasn't about love or regret. It was about control. She didn't want me back. She just didn't want to lose her grip. Esther, my lawyer, was brilliant. Calm, precise, and relentless. With the documentation I'd collected, the evidence Ray provided, and Laney's statement about Joellen's false claims to Eli, we were able to freeze all joint accounts before she could drain them. She tried to argue emotional distress in the divorce filings, but that didn't hold up once her financial movements were laid out in court. In the end, the judge awarded me sole ownership of the house and froze her share of the savings until further investigation into the fake LLCs could be completed. She left town after that. I heard through Ray that Eli had vanished on her, too. Apparently, once the ring came off and the money dried up, Joellen didn't seem so enchanting anymore. Laney told me she'd moved back in with her mother, was selling clothes online, trying to rebrand herself into some kind of empowerment coach. I didn't gloat. I didn't post anything on social media. I just quietly lived. 6 months passed. I repainted the house. I adopted a dog, a nervous little rescue named Mabel who peed every time someone said hello too loud. We were both anxious and a little broken, so it worked. I started going to therapy. Not the kind where you sit and complain about your ex for an hour, but the kind where someone actually holds up a mirror and asks you why you stayed so long in something that hurt. I didn't always have good answers, but the questions changed me. One morning, I made pancakes. For no one. Just for myself. I played the old playlist Joellen once sent me, not because I missed her, but because those songs belonged to me, too. And as the sunlight poured in through the kitchen window, I realized something I never thought I'd feel again. Gratitude. Not for what she did, not for the lies or the betrayal, but for the fact that it was over, for the quiet that followed, for the space to rebuild something real. I still think about the airport sometimes. The way she walked right past me without seeing me. That moment hurt more than anything else. But it also woke me up. Because if someone can stop seeing you, maybe they never really did in the first place. And now? Now I see myself. Finally. I'm not healed, but I'm here. And that's enough for now.